out for the questions that might go live?
I hope so. I think Kylan's got a pretty good grasp on those too. They usually feed into one portal. Sometimes they don't.
All right, cool. All right, here we are for another Friday Edge live Q&A. And today you've got myself, Paul Puey. I'm CEO and co-founder of Edge, and Jessica here, who is our controller. So if you've got any questions on the financials aspect of a company that's operating in cryptocurrency, meaning how do we do the accounting and manage the money in both fiat and crypto, fire them our way. This is a great time to ask those questions. We've got the person who is the master of that in a fairly complex world of not just dollars, especially in the US. A lot of people, even CPAs, I talk to CPAs that have dealt with financials for small business, medium-sized businesses for months, if not years, and they just kind of get thrown a complete curveball when you say, oh, we have crypto, or you have just another currency.
Yeah.
Whereas a company like us, we deal with it on a daily basis. And so in the US, we're used to like one main mother currency, the dollar. Whereas outside of this country, many businesses are used to having to deal with multiple. And so we've got Jessica here, great person to ask about that. We'll go into some detail about, some of the stuff we've dealt with for accounting and tax compliance and whatnot. But yeah, a live Q&A, and we can kind of go forward and see and answer some of the questions that have been asked of us over the course of this week and what's come across the news reel.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
All right. What's come across for you?
You know what? I'm pretty... I was pretty stuck this morning on Bitmain officially filing for an IPO. I know there's been a lot of rumors around them, and they came full disclosure with their financials. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I think it's a necessity, right? That's part of the IPO.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
One of those necessary evils. It's a whole lot of work, but it gives transparency to people that are investing in a company or about to invest in a company. What I found interesting with the full disclosure of their financials was it seemed counter to what a lot of other articles were showing as Bitmain being broke or bleeding a ton of money.
Yeah.
Like they were profitable for a short period of time when the big price ramp up. And there is a lot to be said with mining in the sense that if prices go down, the potential to be non-profitable greatly increases. Like there's a really good chance.
Definitely.
Now, of course, they're not just a mining company. They're a mining hardware manufacturer. So where they might be losing money on actual mining, they could be still gaining it by selling hardware. And I used to be in the semiconductor space, and it's about just having very competitive hardware. And until now, at least up until actually through today, they've had very competitive hardware. And so I think that's pushing them through the down cycle of low prices of crypto, and difficulty adjustment hasn't dropped as dramatically as the price. So obviously with crypto, if it's equally hard to mine but the price is low, but you're mining the same amount of crypto coins, then you're not making as much money. And so that to me was what the fascinating thing is, that they looked very healthy in those numbers.
Very healthy.
Very healthy. And so you'd mentioned this potentially having a good impact for the general crypto industry.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely believe that it can do amazing things for Bitcoin in general, but obviously Roger Ver has some connections in Bitmain, doesn't he?
I think the connection that people would associate is just simply Bitmain and Roger being strong supporters of Bitcoin Cash.
Okay, yeah.
I know a lot of the kind of criticism when the initial reports came out that Bitmain was doing an IPO and some of the numbers came out was that they were bleeding a lot of money and had lost a lot of money because they had held a lot of Bitcoin Cash, which has definitely gone down in value, as all cryptos, but Bitcoin Cash more so. I mean, just like every other crypto, the more volatile or the smaller the market cap, the more volatile you are. So Bitcoin being the biggest one was the least volatile. Everything went down.
Yeah.
It went down the least. Others went down a lot more.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin Cash being one of those that went down a lot more. And so there were a lot of reports saying that, Bitmain was in incredibly dangerous shape. They were bleeding a ton of money. Banks running dry, bank meaning crypto assets as well. But it looks like they're running pretty healthy, at least with this disclosure that I read on, I think it was not Cointelegraph, on CoinDesk. So from that viewpoint, we haven't seen a major IPO in the crypto space yet. This would be the first one.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have talked about that and made the analogy to the internet era, where we had the big internet boom, but it took a while to have, in a way, a meaningful, successful company. We had a lot of IPOs in the internet era.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of those were kind of the equivalent of ICO. They IPO'd, but without a whole lot of substance. Like the company wasn't profitable, they weren't a good product and whatnot. But now when's for the crypto space, ICOs were kind of the equivalent to IPOs.
Exactly.
But now IPOs are kind of reserved. It seems like they're being reserved for the actual successful companies and the big ones. So this is a kind of a first of its kind. Exciting in that point of view, and I think it also shows that there is potential in not just investing in the currencies themselves, but actually in the companies, in the actual equity for the companies, and that there's some return to be had there because it's one of the few major exits that could be coming out.
Why didn't we get into mining, Paul?
Mining? Well,
I mean, I want billions and billions of dollars too.
So realize too that Bitmain is not just, like I mentioned, they're not just a mining company.
Yeah,
they're a
they
chip
have
maker.
so much more. Yeah.
We're not a chip maker. We're a software. We're a software company. We don't know how to make chips. Ironically, I've worked in the chip manufacturing business.
Really?
Having worked at NVIDIA, I know what it's like. And if you're good, you're really good and successful. And if you're not, you burn a tremendous amount of money because it costs a lot of money to make hardware.
Yeah.
So it's just not what our focus is. It's not something that our team has necessarily wanted to do, although we actually have a few hardware engineering co-founders, myself and William included, and William's been on this show a few times. But it's not our focus. We leave that to other people.
Yeah, it's not very profitable in the United States
I think pure mining, if you're not a hardware company like Bitmain that sells mining hardware, pure mining, if you look at the economies, is a net zero proposition.
Yeah.
Some people lose money, a few people make money, and then it's net zero because mining itself adjusts to become net zero, where the cost to mine is what you're rewarded in. And so that, for me personally, wasn't as interesting of a era to get into. It's one of those that it doesn't allow as much room for what I call kind of innovation and product that touches the individual.
Yeah, and that's really important to.
Yeah. So hats off to Bitmain. Congrats on just generally successful operations. Whether you like them or not, they are kind of a major part of this industry, both for Bitcoin, other coins, Bitcoin Cash, and to our understanding, even Ethereum and other kind of script-based currencies. So we'll see how they do going forward. Cool.
Yeah. Hey, I have another question while we're in the southeastern part of the world. Did you hear about the exchange hack? And then the auger bet that was against it?
Yeah. So there was, I think this was before last Friday's Q&A, but we didn't cover it last week.
Yeah.
But there was a recent exchange hack. The Japanese exchange Zafe.
Yeah.
It was reported to have lost 6,000 Bitcoin, which is huge, several hundred million dollars. And I mean, this kind of goes, it's one of these things, we hear about these every so often.
Yeah.
So much so that there was actually an auger market on will an exchange get hacked for over $10 million of user funds before the end of 2018.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much liquidity there was on there, but obviously it was one of those like, oh, of course someone's going to put this on there.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, if you think about it, if there was enough liquidity in this market on Augur for will an exchange be hacked, an exchange could in theory use it as insurance.
Oh, definitely,
right?
yeah.
You could say, oh my God, there's a marketplace for that. Well, in case we do get hacked, we at least have some return to cover that. And that's all insurance is, right? Insurance is taking a bet against yourself. And so an exchange could buy shares in the result of, yes, an exchange would get hacked.
Yeah.
Ironically, though, there were so many people that believed that an exchange would get hacked. It was an 80-20 split. Wow. So really, you wouldn't get that much back if an exchange did get hacked because so many people were expecting it.
Now, can I ask you this? If we had implemented our Edge login onto that platform, do you think that hack probably would have happened? And why would you say that our Edge login could have prevented that hack?
So Edge login is a client-side tool to allow an end user to hold and control their own keys. So if an exchange implemented that, it wouldn't be just implementing that. They would have to completely shift the way they do their exchange.
Okay.
It would have to be effectively a DEX, a decentralized exchange.
Okay.
And one of the goals of DEXs is to build an exchange where you can't hack the exchange and get everyone's money. And then Edge login becomes the way that exchange helps users secure the key. But from the viewpoint of a centralized exchange like Zafe or a Bitstamp or a Mt. Gox from back in the day, them implementing an Edge login wouldn't by itself be any different. because the main thing is that they're holding the funds.
Yeah.
If you're holding the funds as a centralized exchange, you're going to put yourself at risk, and you're going to put the users at risk. And this is what has happened over and over and over again. And this is no exception.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, the industry seems to learn a little bit every time this happens, and then just kind of forget. And learn a little bit and kind of forget.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing a tremendous amount of excitement in the more decentralized exchange. And like I said, I don't call any exchanges like fully decentralized. That's all kind of gray area.
You know, funny ways of describing decentralized, don't you?
Because everyone disagrees what it means to be decentralized, right? Is the
Yeah.
order book, on chain? Are the funds off chain?
What's decentralized,
What
right?
exactly does it mean?
Yeah.
I am excited about whatever you call it, but an exchange that makes it where they don't hold the money.
Yeah.
And actually, there's one exchange, founders here in San Diego, altcoin.io, and they're trying to find a good balance of that.
Okay.
So they're not like a 0x protocol type of an exchange where they do hold the order book. They actually do KYC.
Okay.
And so not everyone would be able to access this exchange. So they're not going to achieve the goal of censorship resistance and full accessibility, but they can't hold and freeze your money.
Yeah.
So they're trying to achieve that specific goal. They've built some tech to help achieve that. Wish them the best luck. I think that that's an honest and good goal to achieve that would have prevented this.
Ideally, they would be holding all their funds in an Edge wallet,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they wouldn't even have to trust an exchange, because typically we've seen that exchanges are untrustworthy. We can't expect somebody that's holding our private keys and that's holding our funds to be as secure as a wallet where we hold our own private keys,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it becomes accessible.
Yep. And so, yeah, we're talking with altcoin, and there's a chance we'll see Edge as an option for people to secure the keys inside of an app like that.
Yeah.
So I think that is an exciting future for what can come, and that could eliminate these problems. And
Yeah.
really, the goal, or at least the tool to get us to that future, is people holding their own keys.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that that's an ideological thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
It's
I've
like,
seen that.
you're like a purist, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't really care about, ownership of my money. I just want to make money on trading and, ups and downs of Bitcoin. Well, you will care if you lose your money.
Yeah.
That's not an ideology thing. That's just a pure security of your funds thing. And I think people will care going forward. And these issues, like you could tell just the fact that, Augur is more than a prediction market.
Yeah.
It's actually a way for you to help predict the future.
Oh yeah, and
Right, so
maybe
it's
make sure that
to look
problems
into it.
don't keep continuing.
I actually really liked one of the pitch terms that was used for Augur, is that it's not just a prediction market, but it's also a search engine for the future.
Okay.
So you can actually help predict, okay, what will happen? Who will win an election?
See the faults before to make the
before they
decisions
happen,
for
before the
future.
events actually happen. If you've got 90% of the world saying that this is what's going to happen based
Yeah.
on their feedback, and uncensored, not centralized, a bunch of people, thousands of people in the world are putting their money on
Yeah.
this specific thing happening, that'll actually help you determine what will.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we see 80% of the kind of bet on Augur regarding a hack happening in 2018, 80% saying yes, it will happen, probably gives you a good idea
Right,
of
that it's going to happen.
that it's going to happen. These people are putting money on their intuition based on historical knowledge and what has happened. So, and they were right. So for those people that put in that,
I'm curious
bet.
though, as how many people actually are bettors. So it could have been 10 people and
Exactly,
8 people
liquidity.
only bet against
Correct.
it.
And that is the big
You know,
question.
so
of-
who knows how
that
many
is the big
people
question of
actually
this prediction
foresee
market
this?
is liquidity.
Yeah.
And so I haven't kept a close eye on the total liquidity
Yeah.
that's gone in. Plus you have multiple markets. Anyone can create a market.
Yeah.
But the good news is I hear that it's definitely increasing. It's on the right curve. Like we're seeing more and more liquidity into the markets. They are resolving. The money is flowing in the right place. And right now you don't want a massive amount of liquidity.
Yeah.
So Augur just launched in July.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have another the Dow incident.
Oh,
where
yeah,
people
right.
put in $150 million and then there's a bug in the smart contract.
Yeah.
So the slow, steady growth is healthy. It's people are putting enough money where they're like, okay, it's still an early smart contract. Let's let it mature.
Yeah.
And if I make $80 on something, okay, great. And
It's
then
what I didn't have, yeah.
maybe in a few more months we'll put out a prediction that has $800 and maybe 8,000 and then 80,000. So this nice ramp up is a good thing for fairly delicate and new technology like this.
And Augur's actually implemented Edge login as one of the security features, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
people
yeah.
can actually
So
go
it's
into
easier
Augur, download it.
If you have an Edge wallet, it's easier just to log in and get all your stuff taken care of.
Yep. Yeah, you already got an Edge wallet account. You download and sync Augur. Syncing Augur could be the thing that's a bit challenging. It's kind of like syncing a full node.
Our support's there for you, though.
Yeah, we can help out. They are too. They're really good about it.
Yeah.
Get it, scan a barcode, and then your Augur wallet is created, encrypted, and backed up.
That easy.
Just like
That's
that.
pretty awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, so other thoughts on questions that have been coming our way across the wire this week? Real estate.
Yeah,
We've had a few questions on real estate.
We actually had a house in La Jolla. I think I retweeted it about 4 or 5 times. A friend of mine, one of his associates was the real estate agent for that house in La Jolla.
Really?
Yeah, so they kept asking us if we'd be interested in going down there, and it just didn't seem really up our alley because, who's going to pay for a big house in La Jolla with Bitcoin?
Right.
I don't even think it was purchased still. I think it's still on the
sitting
market.
there.
Yeah.
There have been homes and just real estate in general that have been purchased with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it has happened in the past. I think there's actually one major one that was done here in San Diego. The major questions that come across our plate, especially from people that are not in the crypto space, is like, well, what are the pros and cons? Like, why would someone do it? Why would someone not do it? Now, ironically, I think crypto, Bitcoin, especially smart contracts, give us the ability to eliminate a whole lot of the cost of a real estate transaction. So if you think about it, I mean, I've got a lot of family in real estate. I don't know if you do. It seems like everyone does.
I don't, actually.
Yeah?
No, I have a couple
ton.
friends, not family.
Yeah, I have friends and family that
Yeah.
are in real estate, both my wife and my own family. And a lot of the cost and headache is in kind of this escrow.
Yeah,
Like the middleman.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to hold the money, and you wait on that, and they charge you several percent on it. So ironically, that middleman can be not an escrow, but it could be just simply a multi-sig account.
Oh, very cool.
And so if you think about all crypto pretty much allows for multi-sig, where you can put money in a wallet or an account that requires more than 1 or 2 people to sign off. And so by having, as an example, a 2 of 3 account, money can be deposited in escrow, and then only if both the escrow and the receiver of that money agree, because the house is closed, then the money gets transferred out. And so that would be a way of making an escrow just an arbiter.
But the next question is, while the money is pending in escrow, let's say the valuation of your crypto drops or your crypto goes up. I mean, what is done? Exactly.
Right.
Is it set at a crypto or is it set at a fiat?
Right. So this is the biggest question I get asked as far as like, how do you resolve that? And there isn't a way to resolve that if you're dealing with what I call like kind of pure play crypto, right? If you're playing with crypto that is volatile and it's not pegged and you're not using like a USDT, then you're stuck. That's pretty much what you get. And you almost want 2 parties that accept that risk. Like, I want to sell my house for 1,000 Bitcoin. I think it's worth 1,000 Bitcoin. You want to buy it, you think it's worth 1,000 Bitcoin. Then, okay, we agree on it, and we say that it's a Bitcoin price. We don't care what the fiat value is.
So buy it in Tether.
You could do that in Tether, but realize it. So the one fascinating thing about an escrow transaction using multi-sig and locking it in crypto is realize that one of the things that gives currencies stability is long-term contracts in that currency.
Yeah.
So the US dollar has like decade-long contracts for trade of oil. And as someone that has a dependency on the dollar being stable, because I might have a long-term contract with somebody, like I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars per month, per year, I will have an interest in in keeping the dollar stable. So I'll hedge that. I'll own some dollars because I know I need to pay you that in dollars. But by me owning some dollars, that stabilizes the dollar because I'm holding it. I'm hodling dollars, right? But now think about it from the real estate transaction. That's at least a 30 to 60 day long-term contract. And if you're needing to keep that price somewhat stable and hedge your bet, you're going to do something on the other end to hedge against the volatility of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you are effectively helping stabilize it. So the more people that are actually using crypto for these longer term contracts, the more that the currency itself becomes stabilized.
Nice.
And I'm not too sure how many other companies are out there that do this, but we have some long-term contracts. And when I say long, I don't mean like 10 years, 5 years, or even a year. But even making an agreement with someone to say, for example, we've done this with some of our like contract devs. We'll say, okay, here's a task. We'll pay half a Bitcoin for it. Might take, 30, 60 days. But that is effectively a long-term contract because it's half a Bitcoin, regardless of the price of Bitcoin.
No matter what.
Right, no matter what.
Yeah.
And on our side, since we know we have to pay half a Bitcoin, we want to make sure we have that.
Right.
So we're going to acquire that because we know we're going to have to spend that. And there's a high likelihood we have to spend that. And us acquiring it is now helping stabilize it because we're having to hodl it.
Yeah.
And
So the hodlers are stabilizing our market.
Well, the long-term contract, because it's forcing you to hodl to then use to give to someone else.
Yeah.
In the same sense, they also would like the price of Bitcoin to not plummet, because if it plummets, then they're effectively getting paid less money.
Yeah.
So there's a mutual incentive in keeping the price both stable or upward trending. And so that, I think, is a very valuable piece of what helps stabilize a currency. And we haven't seen a lot of that yet, hence why the cryptos are very unstable. We haven't seen these longer-term contracts. It's like right now when you pay with crypto, you get quoted in a dollar, like a BitPay invoice.
Yep.
You know, and you pay it, and it just takes the current exchange rate and converts it. That isn't as interesting as if you actually had this longer-term need.
Yeah.
You know,
It
and
could
have to
actually
hold some amount of
increase or it can decrease. Or
Yeah, exactly. And we have had some agreements with staff to give things like Bitcoin options, right? Where it's fixed in Bitcoin, kind of like your stock options.
Yep.
I think more crypto companies should do that.
Oh, yeah,
Some crypto
definitely.
options to their staff, and that way after 4 years they get maybe a Bitcoin or two, whatever
Yep.
the price is. So,
be
but yeah.
proven to be very beneficial.
Yep, exactly. All right, so we've got a few more things that came across our plate over the course of the week. What do you think is a good one to kind of chat
You know
about?
what? How about banning Bitcoin donations in elections? I personally was going to vote for The Rock, and I was going to try and get him to sponsor his whole entire campaign with cryptocurrencies. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, but this is just for California. So
Right.
perhaps, I think he lives in Georgia. I think Georgia might have a different view on this, but
What's your take?
I'm
So what's
sure
your-
it's going to probably spread. It's going to spread like wildfire.
The idea of banning crypto?
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm surprised that I actually heard about 2 years ago they started really taking in crypto collections for people that were going to be doing Senate and different runs and stuff. So I was curious to know how they acquired it, where they kept it, and how they kept track of it, and if they counted it in at the dollar that they received it at, or how they actually accounted for it. So there was a lot of X's that I didn't get to read through.
So from a few years ago when I first started hearing about donations in crypto for elections, the main thing that made, to me, this very uninteresting was an already pre-existing rule that if you donated anything other than dollars, that it had to be converted to dollars instantly. And so as an official that's running for office, if you received $100 worth of Bitcoin, you had to convert it to $100 and store it as $100. And that was true of any asset or donation format. So if you donated anything that wasn't pure dollars, like you donated shares of Microsoft,
Realized.
right? You effectively would have to sell those shares and realize them as dollars. And I could see why. Obviously, you imagine Microsoft donating a whole bunch of shares to some official, and so this official now has like very strong interest in Microsoft doing well.
Right.
So it was to remove that conflict of interest. So I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it. And the same rings true for Bitcoin. So obviously, if you just suddenly flooded an official with a whole bunch of Bitcoin, and if the timing was right, it suddenly went up in value, and it's like, oh my God, I love this Bitcoin thing. It kind of goes up in value. They might shift their opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want that opinion to shift, but at the same time, I realize why government kind of doesn't want them to be overly swayed by just pure financial gain in what effectively would be a volatile asset.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to tackle other ways. And I think I'm not so concerned. I don't think we should be paying people off in crypto to get them to support crypto.
No, I definitely don't think we should be paying them off, but making contributions because we believe in what they're into, and crypto's our preferred fiat.
Yeah.
It's our preferred money.
Right.
And for me, I'd rather send somebody crypto than somebody cash any day.
And I don't think that they're going to be successful with this.
Implementing this across.
Because if you already require the campaign to convert to dollars, then how are you going to claim that crypto should be banned versus stock?
Right.
Like if I can donate stock and it has to just get instantly converted to dollars, what's different than
maybe it's the
stock
fact
versus
that
crypto?
they don't know where it's coming from. you're talking about a 21 alphanumeric code, and it could be multiples from different wallets, and it could be from a black market person. It could be from somebody that's doing illegal activities and just trying to push their money out of their account so they can, maybe sway this person or may get them to get elected.
So the people that have accepted crypto, I've seen that they've done it is through a payment processor. So they never expose a public address. They don't just say, hey, here's my QR code and send me money.
Right.
Instead, they will have you go through a payment processor. And in that process, before you can even send money, you've got to fill out the form and say who you are, and address, name, phone number, email, all of that stuff. And so that should effectively eliminate that question.
Yeah, the due diligence should work there.
Exactly. And so hence the same reason why I think that I don't think that this is going to pass. I don't think they're going to be able to prohibit and ban Bitcoin as donations. However, I think that that's not going to be a key way that you effectively really get government to accept Bitcoin or to drive an official.
It's just a preferred payment option.
It's just another payment option. But I do think that as generations change, we're already seeing new people that are running for office just be overall more acceptive or supportive of crypto. And that's just going to be a generational change.
It's great.
It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to stop it. We don't need to convince the old crusties.
No.
They'll just die off and then the new come in place. And then we've got crypto.
Definitely.
Yep, cool. Related to, obviously, the most relevant thing for the person on the show who doesn't come on very often. So
No,
we'd like to have her on more often,
I do
Jessica.
like to hear other people talk. I talk a lot on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Well, here's live.
I'm live.
One huge thing we get asked is how do you deal with accounting and taxes at a company, especially because we're not just dollars. We're Bitcoin, and to some degree we're actually other cryptocurrencies as well.
Definitely.
And like what software do we use? What are the limitations of the different software options? So can you answer that question? Like what software do we use? Do you use personally? Do you recommend? What are the limitations, the good, the bad? It's definitely, in general, it's not done. It's not a solved problem.
No.
But what would you recommend?
I mean, there's some abilities. Obviously, we are a small to medium-sized business, and QuickBooks in the United States is huge for that. It really opens up a lot of doors, and recently QuickBooks Online has been able to implement a lot more of you put in the price of Bitcoin, and we'll give you the U.S. denomination to it, and you can insert it in and apply whatever titles or filters that you need to go with that. With saying that, we personally use QuickBooks Online. We have those amazing 3 dots next to each one of your wallets in your Edge wallet, and you can see that, and you can export to a QBO file. It's not as easy as just exporting to a QBO file, because then you have to take that QBO file and import it into QuickBooks and bring in your transactions and start to assign them. We like you to insert it into a QBO file as bits, not as Bitcoin. Very important, especially with our Edge wallet. From that, you have to go back and verify. So there's a little bit of transaction ID information in there that you can kind of go through and figure out exactly how much is the Bitcoin worth at the time that it came into you or went out, and how much of the U.S. fiat dollar is available for that amount of Bitcoin at that time.
So what were the limitations, you say, of software like QuickBooks? And what would you change? Like, how would you say, like, if only I could redesign it, if I can get into its head and say, hey, please do this so that way we can do crypto really easily, what would it be?
QuickBooks, can you please implement an exchange ticker inside of your application? Because it would be so much nicer to have that already implemented, where they saw the transaction, they read the information, and they're like, oh, so this is the amount of Bitcoin that you guys are sending, and this is how much the U.S. denomination, without us having to manually import that. I think that would be very fundamentally useful.
Cool.
I also know that QuickBooks, I know personally that they offer it for some CSM softwares that they work with, and they have some tunnels that they basically charge you an extra $300 a month, and you can use their tunnels to have your information sync into your QuickBooks without you actually having to download anything or send it to an email. Right. And that can automatically translate. You could just go in there and confirm that the numbers are correct. Because, of course, with any currency, you have to double check and triple check things because these are computers. They have errors. That's why humans were never going to be replaced in accounting. We are errored too, but at the same point as we have that extra ability to go back over things a few times. Yeah. As far as taxes, I know that there's a whole bunch of different companies out there: Bitcoin.tax, Crypto Tax Prep, Coin Tracking, Coin Tracker, and Libra tax, I believe.
Yep.
And I know that there's some in Europe that have some offers to what their promise is. I haven't personally used them, but they don't have a lot of reviews on them right now, so I'm kind of skeptic of them still. Personally, I would tell you, of course, to use the Edge wallet. We offer a CSV file, which is exportable to Excel or Google Docs. Inside of there, you can use it in Sheets. And you can actually see a lot of the information, and you can track things as well. Those are really helpful for CPAs. Of course, if you're doing a CSV file, they might charge you a little bit extra because they're doing the work. But if you can do the work for them, you might save yourself a little time. You might be able to figure out your own numbers at the end of the day. We personally use crypto on a day-to-day basis. So we use it for general transactions. We use it for payroll. We use it as much as possible, honestly. I would say that people like us versus traders have it a lot harder. Traders, there's a lot of applications there that work specifically for traders.
Yeah, I think the ones you were mentioning on here are very trader oriented. Like you put in all your trades, it figures out your gains and losses, and then you kind of spit that out as one line item of your Quicken or QuickBooks. Whereas for us, it's integrated as part of your, we spend in it, we receive it as revenue and whatnot. I've heard you kind of mention some of the frustrations with current tax accounting software like QuickBooks with respect to the precision.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit, like the precision, the number of decimals and whatnot?
Yeah, so turning the Bitcoin actually into fiat dollars with precision is not always perfect. Sometimes I find the fiat dollars are off from what I assign to them, and the amount of Bitcoin at this current time, maybe it was right, or it could have had a couple errors. But I do know that when we implement it, it needs to have a certain amount of decimal points inside of the QuickBooks BTC side. Because currently they only have BTC as a currency that they support, but you could always use a foreign currency that you don't use for other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or something. But for just Bitcoin in general, you have to make sure that the decimal point is in this right spot, or it's going to change the entire outcome of how much fiat value is actually.
What do you mean by the right spot?
So I believe that the decimal point has to be 2 spots. Let's see, 4 spots over, and then it has to have 2 zeros before it, and then the number, the valuation of Bitcoin at the time that it was converted.
Okay, you mentioned something about like setting. Does that have to do with when you mentioned make sure you set it to bits?
Yeah, so it has to definitely be in bits because when you add Bitcoin, the denomination value gets all screwed up. So when it goes inside of the actual application, it's showing it in bits, which is not where the decimal place needs to be. It needs to be where it has the proper valuation 4 spots over. When you have it to bits, it puts it 4 spots on top. So it's before the decimal spot, then you have your .0773. So it could be 9,763.63 if you have it in Bitcoin.
0.63.
Yeah, versus if you have it in bits, it could be 0.009763. So it kind of eliminates where the decimal spot is, and it kind of imports a lot easier with a correct denomination. I don't know. It sounds really confusing when I speak about it, but when you see it implemented, it's a lot easier to understand.
Got it. So set your wallets to bits.
Yes, when you download the QuickBooks.
When you export your transactions from
QBO files
into a QBO file for import, and I'm assuming that is because most financial software is based on fiat.
Yes.
Right, and fiat typically has no more than 2 decimal places of accuracy, like for cents, like $0.01 is 1 penny. In contrast, for crypto, you've got 0.00000. I've got a whole bunch of decimal places. In the case of Ethereum, you've got 18 decimal places.
Right.
And you effectively lose all of that precision. All right. So you spent 0.001 Ether. Well, in QuickBooks, that's 0. It just rounds to 0.
Yeah.
And so export your transactions. But before you export your transactions, set your denomination for a specific crypto, which you can do
in settings
in Edge. You can
Yeah.
you can pick whatever crypto. It's like Ethereum. You can set this, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin. Set it to a denomination that gives you enough kind of decimal accuracy, where you have enough so you don't lose all of that precision.
Yeah.
And then when it gets imported into the tools that people like Jessica have to deal with, like QuickBooks, you don't suddenly have transactions that are worth nothing.
Yeah, because they do. They show up as nothing, and if you just auto import them, it's not showing anything. So you have to double check and triple check your work and make sure your decimal places are in the right spot and your fiat value is matching what your exchange at the time was.
Right. Okay. Cool. I think we're definitely a bit over.
Really quickly
on time,
though,
but
where are we going?
Where are we going? So, yeah, we do travel quite a bit and kind of get to see the rest of the community here in the world doing crypto. So we've got a few events lined up. Most
you're talking
recent, most, not all of them, but some of them we definitely are.
Yeah.
So upcoming, I'm going to be over in HoshoCon in Vegas coming up on October 10th.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this one because this is one of the first crypto conferences that has a core focus on security.
Yeah.
The guys at Hosho have been doing like smart contract security
Great lineup.
penetration testing for many different crypto projects. And I think like Andreas is going to be there speaking as well, Andreas Antonopoulos. So I'll be there. That's on October 10th in Vegas. And then BlockCon LA. So it's not too far away from us here in San Diego.
Yeah, you're talking on the
12th.
the 12th.
Yeah, on the 12th. It's I think one of the second or third day of the conference. And then we've got almost our entire team, a lot of our team headed over to Texas, 5 of us going to the Texas Bitcoin conference.
And you're talking there again too?
I'll be speaking there, and that's actually kind of our 1-year anniversary of Edge.
Yeah,
so we
that's
launched
great.
and announced our kind of rebrand and rename and our new app Edge at this conference last year in 2017. So we're kind of happy to show up again, and we'll have some announcements again as
Maybe
well.
a
So
keto
definitely come
cake,
by.
who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yep. So excited to kind of make some new announcements there and bring our teams to get to meet a good handful of us that are headed to that conference. Right after that, I'll be in Prague at Ethereum DevCon 4. Look forward to meeting up with a lot of the dApp developers there. We do have a platform for dApps to help secure keys. And I'll be headed right back into the U.S. For
Back to
Vegas
Vegas.
CryptoCon, the World CryptoCon in Vegas.
I'm really excited about this
I'm excited
one.
about that one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yep. So the organizers are looking at putting on a really good user experience conference, meaning a conference that has a great check-in process, design, aesthetics, booths and design and stage and lighting. All
They've
that.
done a really great job
yeah.
promoting themselves this year.
They
I'm
have,
really
yeah, exactly.
happy about this
Yeah.
conference.
So I'm excited about that conference. I'm bummed it kind of overlapped a bit with DevCon, so I'd only be able to see part of it.
Yeah.
But then we should as well. We haven't kind of inked it out, but we'll likely be over at the BitConf.
Yeah.
And so I should
and
be there.
another group of great speakers, including
Exactly.
Andreas again.
Yep. If you haven't been to Latin American Bitcoin Conference, this time it's in
Yeah.
Chile. It rotates around different parts of Latin America. I definitely think you should. And the ethos of the conference is very high. They don't charge a whole lot of money. It's a very reasonably cost conference. They have a great time.
¿Sí habla
They
español?
Solo un poquito.
No,
muy bien.
eso, bien.
But definitely, I'd recommend checking it out. So LaBitConf, LABITCONF is the conference. And at least I'll be there. We might send some more of our team
Yeah,
as well. That's in
sounds
early
good.
December, around the 5th or so. But cool, that's it. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Firing up the questions, and we'll check you out next Friday.
Hey, happy birthday, Paul.
It's not my birthday. It's your
It was
unbirthday,
yesterday.
right?
It
Happy
was
unbirthday?
yesterday.
It's your unbirthday,
It's
isn't
your
it?
birthday.
It's your unbirthday.
He's 21.
Yep.
Guys, feel free to buy him a
Times
shot.
something.
He likes
Ti-
oyster shots, too.
Yep. 21 times some number. Cool. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, guys.